Hello, everybody. Sorry about the delay there. Somebody messaged me, as you probably heard, right as I started doing the intro music, and I had to quickly respond to them because they're asking where the show is. So there you go. Had to do that. So apologies. Welcome. Hopefully audio and everything else is good, like it normally is, and all that good fun stuff. We have 14 or 15 people here, which is pretty good for a Songwriting Simplified. I don't know why I did the long S there, but anyway, for a Songwriting Simplified, pretty much unannounced on my channel. I think I only put the announcement up just over an hour ago because Jonny contacted me and said, hey, I need to not do the show tonight for family reasons. And I said, sure, that's fine. I will take it. And I will do it myself. So yes, so that's what that was. Somebody was asking where the link to the show was because they obviously had not got the message that the show was over here instead of over on Jonny's channel. So that's what that was. The timing sucked, but hey, it's okay. So I don't mind doing those kind of things. It is just what it is. So we have a reasonable crowd here. We have 18 people here already, which is pretty awesome. John Lake was the first one in the room. He says, on the road again, and he's saying hi to nobody. But John, if you're watching the replay, I see you. Just Bob said, one is the loneliest number. So he was number 2 in the room. So there we go. And we got Sean Aaron here. We have Bill Shepherd. We have Thomas is here in the Philippines. Budbox Guitars is here. Kelly. And, of course, Mika Han is here as well. He says, hi all, hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, we're all doing pretty good. I will talk about my foot in just a minute because I know some of you will probably want to know about that because I made mention of that recently. Let's see. Who else do we have here? I think that's pretty much it that's active in the chat right now. So if you are here and you are watching and you are on the YouTube channel watching, please do say hello in the chat. I would love to hear from you, especially if you are new to either my channel or this show. That would be awesome. Diego says, can you criticize our songs and mixes? I can, but what you'll need to do is you'll need to email the MP3 of your song to me. And you will need to email Jonny at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk if you do that. And put the title mix critique or song critique or something like that, and then attach the MP3 to your email. I will check it out and I will reply to you with a few short bullet points because that's kind of all I have time for these days is just short bullet points. But yeah, I will definitely do that. Absolutely, and that goes for everybody else, not just Diego, everybody else. If that's what you would like, then by all means drop me an email. Likewise, if there is a show topic that you would like to see done, email me and we will do the show. We will feature that particular subject. And I'd be very, very happy to do that because this show is all, Songwriting Simplified is all about you guys as much as my Sunday Night Live is all about you guys as well. So, I want to make sure that you guys are happy and that you guys are being served as well as we can. Both me and Jonny. That's kind of our vision for this show and also for my Sunday Night Live as well. I want to make sure you guys are served as well as we can. Jeff Wood says hi from Whitley Bay. Hello, Jeff. Whitley Bay is very, very nice. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's see. Bill says, I already have a wife and kids to criticize my songs. Yeah, me too. I know how that feels. Absolutely. My wife basically listens to everything that I do before anything gets published anywhere. She is kind of like my final quality assurance test. And she is a musician. She's a midwife. That's what she does for her profession. but she is a musician. She's a flute player and a singer. So, she knows what she's listening out for, and she knows what sounds good. And that's the important thing. She's able to listen for balance and those kind of things. And yes, she picks my songs apart, and she picks my mixes apart as well. And, she'll say, hey, you know what? The guitar is a little bit too loud, or the guitar's not loud enough, or the keyboards are not loud enough, or, stuff like that. Or she'll say, you know what? That bridge section before the chorus is just a bit boring. Do something with it. So, yeah. Just Bob says, I sent a song a while back via Messenger. That won't work. Normally it would, but I may have not seen it, in which case I apologize. So, yeah. I'm sorry about that, Just Bob. Please do send it me again. But the issue with Messenger is that sometimes some file sizes and some file types just don't go through, so it ends up just blank. In which case an email would be better, or a link to a Dropbox folder would also work just as well. John Edgar says, bad storm brewing outside my door. Gonna have to log off on my CPU and pick up on my mobile. Okay, John. Well, we will see you over on your mobile phone. Take care. Ghastly Baz is here. He says, hello, home early from work. Gonna watch while exploring Studio 1.5 and Persona Sphere. Persona Sphere is awesome. It really is. And I'm not just saying that because I work for the company and, I was part of the team that built the darn thing. It is just flipping awesome. It's a brilliant concept. And, you pretty much get everything. You get everything that every piece of software practically that Personas makes, and you get collaborative tools, and you get Studio One 5 Professional. And the cool thing about that is with Studio One 5 Professional, and your Personasphere membership, if you carry on your membership and you keep it going, by the time we get to Studio One 6, you don't have to pay anything extra. Studio One 6 will just go ting straight into your account. I mean, for me personally, that on its own is worth its weight in gold, because you're not having to store up funds so that when it comes to upgrade time, you've got the money there. It's just there. That's just how it works. There we go. So I'm going to update you real quick about my foot, because I know some of you have been following this on Sunday Night Live shows. So the story is I went and had x-rays, and I got the x-ray results back on Monday. The good news is there is no broken bones. Yay! Yay for good news. Not so good news is we're not really sure what the heck is wrong, other than my right foot is swollen to approximately twice its size. It is phenomenally painful and really uncomfortable. And I have a box of these pain meds, and they are the strongest pain meds that you can get pretty much, other than morphine. And I have to take those 3 times a day because they are vicious little suckers. And and the pain is that just ridiculous. It's kind of off the charts, really. So I've got that going on, and I should be having a scan on my foot to find out if there's something muscular or deep tissue that's gone on. There's no infections, which is also good news. My blood work came back, and they said, yes, everything in your bloods is perfectly normal. You are alive, and everything is working as it should, and all your blood sugars and everything else are where they should be. So it's nothing to do with, it's not an illness. Something physical has happened, and we don't know what. So yeah, I have a little stool rigged up underneath my desk, and a pillow on top of that stool, and my leg is kind of on top of that, which is fine for working, but after a while, the entire leg just goes to sleep. So then when I get up to go and get a cup of tea, you know, she's like, oh, my leg just completely collapses. It's entertaining to watch, which is why you guys won't be seeing it when it happens. So there you go. That's the update. We don't know what the story is at all. But yeah, all I have to do is just take these, and they've got some more for me at the pharmacy, which I need to pick up, or at least actually I need to send my wife on an errand to go and get them. So yeah, because those are starting to run out, and it will be impossible to cope without them, to be really honest. And no, it's not gout. That is definitely not the case, because it did not show in the blood work. So having my bloods done is entertaining. It is for the nurses anyway. They are always entertained when they have to take my bloods. Because they take the blood and I go and I hit the deck. Or rather I hit the couch, whatever I'm on. It's weird. I don't know why that happens, but you know, I'm perfectly fine with you know, I'm not at all squeamish. I have seen some pretty unpleasant things in my time. For a wee while I kind of moonlighted as a paramedic, so I have seen some pretty gross things in my time, and I'm not at all squeamish. So, you know, I have absolutely no problem with the sight of blood, except when it's mine. When it's mine, I'm on the floor. But anyway, there, you guys kind of don't really need to know that. That's, this is, you know, Songwriting Simplified. So Mika asks, does your spouse hear you develop the tracks for your songs? 10 million repetitions and all the way to finished mix. Yes, she does, actually. For the most part, she does. Or at least she certainly kind of, like, she sticks her head around the door and she will hear various stages of development. So she'll hear it from, you know, basic drum track and scratch tracks of a roughed out, you know, a basic keyboard part, and then everything else gets added after that. And then the scratch tracks just get deleted and replaced by the real McCoy. Quite often that's how I work, but it isn't always how I work, because for the most part, and I've talked about this before on this show, but with Jonny, is that the song is already finished up here. I know what it sounds like. I know what each part should sound like. So for me, the trick with songwriting is getting what is in here to come out of the speakers. And, you know, it's kind of, for me, it's a little bit like transcribing, because it's already thoroughly worked out in my head. I just have to transcribe it and get it, you know, from keyboards and everything else and into Studio One and coming out the speakers. So I already know what the finished product sounds like. But yeah, so sometimes I will do kind of basic tracks. And the idea of the basic scratch, I call them scratch tracks. The idea of the basic scratch tracks is it just provides me with kind of like a basic form and structure of the song. And then I can get other musicians in to come and do what they need to do. So if I have a horn section on there, I have roughed out the horn section. I've, you know, the horn section, I've kind of played it in on this guy over here, into Studio One, and then I send the Studio One data to Notion, and Notion prints out all the parts beautifully, and then I email those to my guys, and then they send me their audio recordings of the parts back to me, and then I just bring them into Studio One, and that's how it works. And it's the same with, you know, whomever, because obviously at the moment with coronavirus, I can't have anybody in my studio, so everything is done remotely, which is actually quite a cool way to work. So I just send out the basic backing tracks, and then they do their stuff, and then they send their tracks to me, and quite often they'll send me multiple takes, and they'll say, hey, you know, I thought of several different ways that I could approach this track, and here they are, and pick the one that you want, and delete the rest. And so that's kind of usually what I do. And sometimes I'll like aspects of one take and aspects of another take, and so I'll comp something together from the several takes that they send me. And that's usually how it works. it's actually a really, really cool way to work. Just Bob says, do you need to elevate it? Possible blood or fluids pooling? Yeah, I've been told to, which is why I have the little stool rigged up under here. But I don't have it on the stool all the time, for the reason that it kind of does make my leg go to sleep after a while. So, like right now, I've actually totally removed the stool because I know that I'm going to have to swing around to play piano at some point. So, I need to be kind of flexible for that. But when I'm actually sat here doing my my work at Persona Support, I'm pretty much sat in the same position. I don't have to move much, except maybe to the Mac to go and test something on the Mac, or when I need to look at system files on a Mac which I can't look at on the PC, I go over to the Mac and do that. Although with the amount of pain I'm in with my foot at the moment, I'm thinking of rigging up TeamViewer so that I can remote into the Mac and operate the Mac from my PC. So that way I'm completely at rest in one place for pretty much the whole time. So yeah. Sean Aaron says, I've sent mixes in the past and never heard back. Not to put you on the spot, but this is the only time I can reach you. I'd like to get a critique on Paper Deity. Yes, you did send me a Paper Deity mix. Yes, you did. I don't know how that got buried. I apologize. I don't know how on earth that got buried. But yes, you did send me a really good mix, actually, which I have listened to. And I did enjoy your take on it. I did enjoy your perspective on my song, which is awesome. I will send you some more detailed feedback, I promise. And I know I've kind of said that before, but I have been pretty busy of late, but I will email you back. That much I promise. If you would if you're on Facebook, I can't remember whether you are. I think you are. Just private message me on Facebook your email address, and I'll go and find it in my email, and I will respond to you. I promise. I will do it. And if I don't, you have good reason to continue to harass me until I do, okay? And you have my permission to do that. All right, so songwriting questions, which is kind of all I can do at the moment because I don't have Jonny Gybe here. And this is kind of last minute. And we did actually have a subject for tonight, but I really want Jonny's take on this, so we will save that for next week. So this week it's going to be your questions, and I think we've done that quite a lot recently for various reasons. And we both of us are really sorry that kind of our private lives have kind of got in the way of the last couple of shows. It's not much fun. Can we make Sean Aaron's mix the show? That's a good question. I would have to go and find it, and that's the thing. I'd have to go and find it from my emails and bring it in to Studio One and then do it that way. That would take a little bit more preparation, but I'll tell you what, we'll do that this Sunday. We'll do that for Sunday Night Live. We will start the show with Sean's mix of Paper Deity, and we'll go through it. I promise. That's a good idea. There you go. And we'll use that as a springboard. Maybe we'll compare his mix to mine and take it from there and see, kind of, because I actually have two mixes of it. I have the mix that I did for the record, and then I have the mix that I did a couple of years afterwards for the video series that I did I can't remember when that was. I think it must have been 2018, I think. And Kelly says, I have one. Cool. Okay. Well, if you guys have still got Paper Deity mixes kicking about, please do send them. And we could actually just stack them up and we could do a few different mixes. Why not? Why not? Let's do it. Kelly says, probably a simple quick question regarding composition. Please post the question, Kelly. Diego says, how can I get out of A, B, C, A, B structure? Is that structure the best? Why is it so common? That's a great question. And actually, the song format that you're talking about here kind of largely comes from a development of the original form of songs from maybe the late 1920s to early 30s and 40s. And that would be the AABA form. And it's really, really a popular way of writing a song. And certainly you can structure your verse in that fashion and then have your chorus kind of a little bit different. And it's incredibly useful to have this form, and this kind of ABCAB kind of form has kind of developed out of it, where you have verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. Those kind of ideas have kind of developed out of this AABA 32-bar song format. So yeah, that's kind of where it comes from, and you can get out of it by trying a different form. Try something else. There are lots of different forms you can use. I mean, you can actually borrow forms from classical music if you would like to. So, for example, you could take, I mean, AABA is kind of loosely a ternary form with the A section repeated. So it's kind of like ABA, which is ternary form, with the first A section repeated. So that kind of does kind of have a classical link, but you could also go down a different road and you could try Rondo Form. Rondo Form is quite good because Rondo Form gives you like a recurring theme, and you know the kind of whole idea of verse chorus verse chorus verse chorus kind of is Rondo Form to a degree. Where but here's the thing: what we do with modern songwriting is that the melody and the chord changes for the A section, which would be your verses, always is the same. It's the lyrical content that kind of changes as you go. And maybe some of kind of like the other arranging techniques, like different counter melodies and maybe different textures, a thinner or a thicker texture for a different verse. You know, those kind of things are kind of developments around the core structure, but essentially kind of verse chorus verse chorus verse chorus is certainly a type of rondo form. But where rondo form is different is that each section that is not an A section, because the A section is the recurring idea, because you have A, B, A, C, A, D, A, E, A, F, A, G, A, and so on for as many as you would like. The A is constant. Everything else is different, and usually it's not just different thematically, so you have different melody and different chord changes, but you may also be in a different key. So let's say you're in... Hey, kill the reverb. Let's say you're in the key of G for your A section. And then your next section might be in the dominant, so you might have gone like this. So you're in the dominant, and then you would go back to the key of G from the key of D, which is quite easy to do. And now you're back in the key of G, and then so that would be section A always in the key of G, section B is in D, and then the next key could be, I don't know, the key of C. So you've got a section in G, and then in D, and then going back, and then going to the key of C, and then you could go, okay, well, I'm going to continue this kind of development, and I'll maybe go into the key of F. my next section. But you're always finding a way from whatever key you're in, going back to the key of G. So that's your challenge, is always finding a way to get back to your first section, your A section in the key of G from wherever you are. And you can make that a kind of a part of what makes the song unique. Is you could go, okay, I'm going to do each section either in each other alternative section in a related key, and then just for fun, maybe like the last couple of sections, you just go and say, right, I'm going to do this in completely unrelated keys, and the trick will be finding my way back to G every time. And that kind of could be like a little bit of a musical in-joke. So let's say we take, so we're in G, let's say we decide that the final couple of sections, one's going to be in E flat and then the other one's going to be in B flat. So we're in G, so we need a 2-5-1 in E flat, so that's going to be F minor, B flat 7, E flat. So that section will be in E flat, but then you've got to get back to G. So 2-5-1 in G, and you're back in G again for your A section. And then let's say, like I said, you want to go to B flat, so you want a 2-5-1 in B flat. So C minor, F7, and we're in B flat. So this section's in B flat, and then you've got to go back to G, and now we're back in G again. So you can use that whole idea of Rondo Form, which is a classical form, and that will get you out of that ABA, that A, B, C, A, B kind of form. You can also take on, if you're thinking of writing a bigger work, you could take on Sonata Form, which has exposition, development, and recapitulation, and maybe will combine several different themes and from your exposition, and then in your development, you would take those themes and expand them and take them into different keys, and then you come back and recap. So Sonata Form is kind of like a very large ABA. So the A section is your exposition. So it's the statement of all of your melodic ideas. And then the B section will be the development. So you'll take those ideas and you'll stretch them in some way or other, or contract them in some way or other, or take the melodic idea and transpose them into different keys. And then the recapitulation will be the restatement of your A section ideas, but you are then concluding them. So you may take elements of the A section and some of the developmental things that you did with the B section, tie them together back in your recapitulation section, which is the recap of the A section, and it'll be in the same key as your exposition section. And that's kind of how symphonies are written, if you didn't know that. That's how symphonies get written, those massive works by people like Beethoven and Bach and Mozart and Haydn. When they wrote symphonies, these huge, great works that take 40 minutes or something to play, usually the first movement would be in that sonata form, and then the final movement might be in the rondo form. So there you go. So there's some kind of form and structure ideas that you can take from classical music and bring them into whatever style of music it is that you work in, be that jazz or pop or rap or trip hop, whatever it is that you do, or folk or country, whatever the music is that you do, you can take different forms from different styles and different songwriting periods and bring them into what you do and, shape them, hone them, make them your own. So I hope that kind of answers that question. Sean says, I don't have Facebook. I email all my MP3s with the subject starting MP3, for example, MP3 paper deity. Okay, Sean, I will look those out. That gives me some search strings. Thank you very much. Kelly says, can you suggest a transition up a full step to get to an instrumental on a chorus part, then back down a full to return to the song? That is a great idea, and I have done that before. In fact, there was a song that I did an arrangement of for a vocalist, and the chorus was actually too low for her to sing, but the verses were fine. So we had to find a way to solve this problem so that it made the chorus nice and big and dynamic and everything else that a good chorus should be. But we were going down a step instead of up. So it's kind of the opposite a little bit of what you're wanting to do, but the same applies. The same techniques apply. And, actually quite often you find this in a lot of popular songs where the guitar solo is written for a guitarist. So, if the song is in, let's say the song is in F, not many guitar players are, particularly pop guitar players or blues guitar players, are not that particularly well versed in flat keys. They don't like to play in flat keys. They prefer sharp keys like E or A or D or G. So let's say, you know that your guitarist has particularly good set of chops in the key of A, but your verse and your chorus, your whole song is written in F. So you can do a whole series of little, what we call turnarounds, to get into that key. Now, it depends how quickly you want to get there to set up the solo. I like to take my time to set up the solo, to build up the tension, to build up the anticipation, and then launch straight into the guitar solo. So I might actually go for a series of key changes first before I get to where I want to go. But if you want to get there nice and quick, you can be in F, so you're playing away in F. But you want to go to the key of A eventually. You do B minor, E7, not necessarily with a sharp 9. So we're in A, but we need to get back to the key of F for the rest of the song, right? G minor, C, and F. Kind of depends on what you want to achieve, but you can go the long way round and do lots of different keys before you land on the one where you're going to launch into your guitar solo. I've done both. Let's see what else we got. You guys are talking about bass players. Let's see. I'm a bad boy. I'll stop trying to type, says John. Don't worry about it. I've been doing that all day. Typos all day. Not being able to type things properly all day. Sean says, I wrote a song in F sharp harmonic minor. It was weird for my brain. Yeah, harmonic minor scales are quite fun to do. Mike Neighbor says, I guess John G is on vacation. Not necessarily. He's got some family issues going on that he needed to take care of. So I'm doing my show on my own. Diego says, keyboard's distorting a bit. Yeah, it might be actually. Let me back it off a little bit. There we go. We're not clipping at all now. Yeah, so we should be fine now. Alrighty, let's see what other questions we got. F sharp is actually a really nice key. F sharp minor, I quite like it. Hey, that wasn't F sharp minor, that was F sharp diminished. Sorry about that. Yeah, F sharp minor is really nice. Works in a lot of cool, funky ways. You know, you can kind of do this. There's a Steely Dan song that kind of starts like this. It's a nice way to kind of like make an F sharp minor chord just sound cool. And that's kind of like F sharp minor going to E, but keeping the F sharp in the bass. It's just a nice little way to vamp on an F sharp minor chord. Let's see. Mike says, I was surprised when I looked at my phone and saw you were live. Yeah, I kind of put up an announcement about an hour before showtime, basically saying, hey, you know, I have to do the show on my own. So, yeah. We're doing good, Bob. Yes, we are. Excellent. Okay, any more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap the show because it's 22. So, technically, we've got another 20 minutes that I would like to fill with your questions. Mika, misread. Mika says, very nice process you have going on. Do you spend much time verbally communicating with your mates, musicians, the impetus of your songs, recordings? Yeah, I kind of do. What I will tend to do is I'll tend to send them kind of like the scratch tracks thing as an MP3. And if I've got like specific things written out, like if it's from my horn section, there will be specific charts written out, and so they'll get the backing track and they'll get my horn section charts. So they'll get two. They'll get one MP3 that is the backing track without the horn, without mocked up horns, and then they'll get another one which has the mocked up horns, so that they can kind of see not just what's on the page, but kind of like how I would like what's on the page kind of interpreted. So that, you know, it's clear. And it's not just that they're just playing the dots on the page, but they have some context in and some, you know, the way I want those to sound. Because for me, coming from the jazz tradition in particular, you know, there is so much more than just the notes on the page. The notes on the page tell you one thing. They tell you you are playing a B flat above middle C for an eighth note, followed by a C, followed by a D flat, followed by a D natural, all as eighth notes with a phrase marking over the top. What does that tell the performer? That tells the performer to play those note values and those particular pitches and make it into a nice phrase. That's it. Doesn't give you a whole lot of interpretive details about, hey, how did the composer really hear this in their head? So, you know, that's the thing with documents, is you have the composer's intent. But is that how they heard it in their heads? And that's kind of where the kind of, from the jazz perspective, you can read a lot more into what's behind the dots. Whereas in a classical orchestral perspective, you cannot do that. You have to play literally the note values and the phrase markings literally as they are on the page. And that's how classical music works. But in the jazz tradition, it's not just about this is the specific figure I want played and the way I want it played. It's kind of like, but I want you to bring your personality to it. And that's kind of what jazz brings to it, is kind of a particular written part is, you know, I'm giving them the chart. This is how I want it played. These are the notes. These are the note values. Go play it. But I want you to stamp your personal personality, your imprint onto it. Even if it's for a horn section, and I want the horn section to be extremely tight and extremely together, which means they need to play with precision. I still want their personalities, because that's why I hire particular musicians. And in fact, when I'm writing for a horn section, for the most part, if it's my stuff, my songs, I'm writing for particular musicians in that horn section. So I am voicing for the sound that I get from each individual musician and the tone colors that they apply by their physique, by their playing technique, and all of those kind of things that contribute to make Luke Richards' flugelhorn sound the way it does, for example. I want not just the sound to come out of the bell of Luke Richards' flugelhorn, I want his personality as well, because that is a tone color that contributes to the sound. So I want that. And then I want the other musicians and their personalities. And to me, those are extra textures and extra colors that I can use. So when I'm writing for my horn section, that's what I'm writing for. I'm not just writing for flugelhorn 1, flugelhorn 2, alto sax 1, tenor sax 1, tenor sax 2, baritone sax. I'm writing for the people that play those instruments, because it's their sound and their playing technique that makes what I have written work. If I gave those charts to another horn section, it would not sound how I want it to sound in that context. So when I'm writing for my horn section, for my songs, that's how I write. However, if I am hired as an arranger to write horn section charts for somebody else, for their horn section, for their songs, that's different. Then I don't know what those musicians sound like. So I have to think kind of very generically when I'm writing a horn section in that context. And so, yeah, I might put more down on the page in that context. But yeah, that's kind of how it works for me anyway. Just Paul says, speaking of reading notes, how come you can tell when someone is just playing versus when you can feel that they felt what they played? I'm not quite sure I'm understanding your question correctly, but I'm still gonna try. How come you can tell when someone is just playing versus when you can feel that they felt what they played? There is a difference in sound. You can play with conviction and you can play with no conviction. And although you are playing exactly the same rhythmic values, exactly the same pitches, it will sound very different. And you can test this. You can absolutely scientifically test this. And you can do this in Studio One with your guitar or with your piano or whatever, and have a particular phrase that you write out. This is the exact phrase, and you play it both ways. You play it utterly with conviction. I believe passionately in every single note that is on this page. And I want to eke out every drop of emotion from each one of these notes. So you play it that way, and then you stop, you go back to the beginning, you do take 2, you mute the first one because you do not want to be influenced by the first one, and you do the second take where you are literally just scientifically performing each individual note value to its maximum length, nothing more, nothing less, nothing added, nothing taken away. And then you play the 2 back to back, and you A-B between the 2. You can hear a clear difference. Because the way we invoke and inject our emotion into the notation means that it sounds different. Even if you're playing exactly the same note values and you look at it on the piano roll in Studio One and all the note values are exactly the same, it will sound different. So, yeah. You know when somebody's played something with conviction and when they have played something not believing in it. There's a big difference. And of course, the more you are exposed to and the more you spend time with other people's music and arranging other people's music and even conducting other people's music, the more you get to hear it. And the more, the more your ears are finely tuned to it and you can point it out. You can say, hey, come on, you're not playing with conviction. Believe in the notes. Even if the notes sound weird to you, think about the rest of the context of the piece. And I've done this. There was a piece I wrote nearly 10 years ago. In fact, it's more than 10 years ago. It's probably about 15 years ago. And I wrote it for a 15-piece ensemble, which had like rhythm section, it had some woodwinds, and it had some brass. But it wasn't a big band. It was an ensemble. So there were like clarinets, there were bass clarinets, there were flutes, there were alto flutes, and there were a couple of flugelhorns, and some saxophones were in there as well, and a tuba, and a couple of trombones, and a couple of bass trombones. Okay, so that was kind of like the instrumentation for this particular piece. But I had gone for really dense, thick textures and close voicings in the arrangement. So that meant that some people's parts, on their own, isolated, sounded practically atonal. And almost like the notes are random, kind of their parts on their own sounded completely atonal. So when they were practicing just their parts in isolation, of course, they practiced playing them without any conviction because they had no context. They didn't know what's the end result supposed to be. And so when I brought this ensemble together for our first rehearsal, or rather I should say our first day of rehearsal, because we rehearsed this piece for 8 hours. And the first couple of playthroughs, it just sounded very lackluster. It lacked any weight. It lacked any conviction. And, it just felt flat. And it sounded flat. And I don't mean flat in terms of pitch. It just sounded, And I said, okay, you guys have been practicing your parts in isolation. And so they probably sounded weird to you. But now hear how it sounds, how your part sounds with the guy or girl sitting next to you and their parts. And so I got each section to play all the way through the whole piece. So I said, right, okay, trombones and tenor saxes, you're just going to play. And we played just their parts, and everybody got to hear how their parts sounded together and how they fit. And then we added layers in. We brought different sections in. And that meant that everybody got to hear each other's section. And once each other's section had played and everybody had heard each other's section, they got used to how it sounded and they had context. And they go, that's why my note is that. Even though it sounds freaking weird on its own, it actually sounds gorgeous when you put it with all the others. And so after that, our next few run-throughs, the conviction started coming. And suddenly the piece started to come completely alive. Now here's the thing. These people are terrific sight readers. So none of them played a wrong note at all. There were no wrong notes played in the slightest. Everybody had everything correct. It's just that the first few run-throughs lacked conviction because they had no context until they'd heard everything else. Once they had heard everything else and how their part fitted into that, then they had that sense of team and they had that sense of my part helps shape the whole unified sound. And then the conviction came. And I said, your part. I was talking to the flutes and the alto flutes. And, the alto flutes and the flutes at points are playing voicings like this. And so they sound weird on their own. And, there's clashes and there's dissonance. And so I had to say to them, look, even if your part sounds very dissonant with your next door neighbor's part, you two are contributing to this whole 5-note chord. So I need you guys who are a semitone apart to play those two semitones like you mean business, like they are the best semitones in the whole octave. And as soon as they started doing that and everybody else started doing that, then suddenly this gorgeous six-note voiced chord with all of its tensions and all of its dissonances totally exploded into this thing of beauty. So there you go. I hope that answers that question. And that actually answers a further question, which is the importance of rehearsal, the importance of practice, so that you're not just practicing your part in isolation, but when it comes, practicing your part in isolation means that when you get to the ensemble rehearsal, you are playing your part accurately in terms of the pitch and the notational values, the rhythmic values, and everything else. You've got the phrases down. All of the bare basics are done. And so when you actually come to play together as a cohesive unit, that's the bit that you hone next. You're kind of into the next level. And, the best group musicians in that respect are the people that have ears that can hear how their section sounds. And this is what happens in symphony orchestras. Like if you're in a woodwind section and there's like 20 of you or more, it could be more, you're in the woodwind section, there's 20 of you. Now, you can give the mix engineer a big helping hand when you're in an orchestral situation and maybe you're recording for a film score. You can give the mix engineer a helping hand. Let's say you're an oboe player and you're in the woodwind section. There's 20 other people playing flutes, clarinets, maybe a couple of other oboes, maybe some bassoons and other woodwind instruments there as well. You can give the mix engineer a big helping hand, and the conductor and the composer, by listening to everybody else in your section and hearing what they're doing, hearing where they are placing the notes. If it's eighth notes, for example, is everyone else placing those eighth notes right on top of the beat, or just before the beat, or just after the beat? Because it'll make a big difference. And so you learn to hear everybody else's eighth note and drop your eighth note in exactly with theirs. And the other thing you can do from a mixing point of view is learning how to balance your part with everybody else's, so that your part doesn't stick out unnecessarily, as in, maybe being a little bit too loud or being a little bit too bold when everybody else is, holding back a little bit. So, there's those things that you drill down in rehearsal. Those are the kind of minutiae that you drill down in rehearsal. It's not just about the eighth notes that are on the page and the particular note values that are on the page. Then you get into, how do I play this note? Do I play this note boldly, assertively, or do I play it holding it back a little bit? Because whatever instrument you're playing, they will sound different. And so you need to work out which is correct for the particular musical context. So I hope that helps. That was a massive long answer to a relatively simple question, but it's a great question. Let's see. Mika said, that's what I wanted to hear. Most conductors spend some time with the orchestra discussing the way he'd like to interpret the piece. Yep, absolutely. Buttbox Guitar says, dots on the paper were the first form of recording. We're very lucky to have it in audio form these days. Yes, absolutely. Photography Light Magic is here. Hello, good to see you. Just Bob says exactly what I was asking. It still blows my mind, even with my stuff, that the how I play versus into how I play in the zone feeling and how the dynamics change. Yes, absolutely. Budbox says, totally agree, you need to pay attention to the whole. Then you know when you're playing your part right. You feel the whole piece. The hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Absolutely. You know when you've nailed it. And the composer and the arranger and the conductor and the mix engineer and everybody will feel it. And you know when you've nailed a beautiful take. And the mix engineer will be sitting back there grinning from ear to ear because he knows all he has to do is just push up the faders and balance them and make sure all of the balances are good. That's all he has to do. He doesn't have to do anything else because everybody else is nailing their parts. They've nailed the emotion. And maybe all the mix engineer is doing is just enhancing that a little bit. You know, hey, this flute counter melody against this oboe melody is just beautiful and the phrasing is just glorious. So the flute just gets a little bit of automation in there just to push it forward just a little bit and then pull it right back again. So it doesn't completely overtake the oboe melody, but maybe it has a little bit of a tete-a-tete with it. Jonny is in the zone, says John Lake. I'm on my soapbox, man. That's where I am right now. Preaching, arranging, the importance of a damn good arrangement for your song. It's not just about C, A minor, F, and G and lyrics, although those are huge important building blocks for your song. The arrangement is what is either going to kill a great song or it's going to enhance a great song. Depending upon what you do, depending upon, how you apply yourself to the arrangement. And a lot of people, unfortunately, will sit back and think, hey, I've just, screw the arrangement. We can do that with automation. No, you can't. Well, you can, but it doesn't sound anywhere near as good, and it takes 50 times longer, and it is 50 times more frustrating. As my good, very dear friend keeps saying, Joe Gilder keeps saying, get it right at the source. And that starts with the song and the arrangement of the song. Get those things right before you've even opened up Studio One 5 or Studio One 4 or Studio One 3 or whatever Studio One version it is that you guys are using, or before you've even put pen to paper. Have the arrangement, have all of that drilled down. And everything else will take care of itself. It'll be a lot easier. And then by the time you're mixing your song, you know what? You're hardly going to be EQing. You're hardly going to be compressing. It's all just about just balancing. Just balancing this against that. Making space for this against that. And that's what mixing will be when your song is nailed. And it'll take half the time. So there we go. Mika says, great show. Thanks for the great discussion. Take care of that sore foot. Thank you very much. Yes, it is really beginning to throb now, and it is after 1 a.m., so I am calling it there. But thank you for the great questions that inspired my rant. I appreciate it very much. We touched the piano maybe a couple of times. We did not touch Studio One 5. Although Sunday night, I'm going to be unpacking a couple of other things with Studio One 5, some of the new stuff, and also Persona Sphere, because I have kind of promised myself and you guys that I would unpack some of Persona Sphere a little bit more and show you some of the awesome things that there are there already. And to be honest, you know what? With Persona Sphere, we have barely begun. There is so much potential with this thing in terms of what could come next. I mean, really, the mind boggles. My imagination is running riot as to what we could do next with it. So, and yeah, we've only just launched the thing, so we're in early days. It is just a baby at the moment. It's still in its diapers. And so with your help, and your brilliant imaginations and feature requests, combined with the geniuses in Hamburg, working together as a team with you guys, we can grow this child into a completely well-rounded and extremely successful adult. So we can do it. We can make Personasphere something that is admired around the audio world. All right, so there we go, folks. I'm going to finish there. Thank you very much for coming and hanging out with me. We had loads of people here tonight, actually. So I'm actually pretty excited with how many people we had here. Let's see, how many people did we peak at? We peaked at 26, and we kind of hovered between 25 and 18 for the most part, which is, yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. If you know people that aren't already coming and watching this show, who and especially when I do it with Jonny Gibe, if you know people that would benefit from this show, tell your mates. Get them into the show and get them asking their questions, and we will help you develop your songwriting skills. So until then, folks, I will bid you a very good night. Good night.